the night shift dispatcher. I've been working as a 911 dispatcher for 8 years. Last Tuesday changed everything. The call came in at 3:47 a.m. I remember the exact time because I was counting down the minutes until my shift ended at 6. The voice was a woman, middle-aged, speaking in that forced calm people use when they're trying not to panic. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone in my backyard, she whispered. They've been standing there for 3 hours. Standard prowler call. I started the usual questions, address, description. Are your doors locked? But something felt off. Her voice had this hollow quality, like she was speaking from the bottom of a well. Ma'am, can you describe the person? Long pause. They're tall, really tall, and they haven't moved. Not once. I dispatched 2 units to 1247 Maple Street and stayed on the line. The woman, Sarah Chun, according to our system, kept whispering updates. The figure was still there, still motionless, still staring at her house. Units are 2 minutes out, Mrs. Chun. Stay away from the windows. I can't, she said. I can't stop looking. There's something wrong with their face. The first unit arrived. Officer Martinez's voice crackled through the radio. Dispatch, we're on scene. Checking the backyard now. I waited. Sarah Chun was breathing heavily into the phone. Dispatch, backyard is clear. No sign of any intruder. I felt Sarah's confusion through the phone. That's impossible, she whispered. They were right there, right by the oak tree. Standard procedure. Sometimes people see shadows, sometimes they're drunk, sometimes they're lying. But Sarah Chun sounded stone sober and genuinely terrified. Mrs. Chun, the officers didn't find anyone. Would you like them to do a full perimeter check? Yes, please. And, can you stay on the line? Just until they're done. I stayed. Martinez and his partner spent 20 minutes checking every inch of the property. Nothing. No footprints, no disturbed ground, no sign anyone had been there. But as they were leaving, Martinez called back. Dispatch, weird thing. There's a perfect circle of dead grass by that oak tree. Looks fresh. I filed the report and forgot about it. Until the next night. 3:47 a.m. exactly. Same woman, same address. 911, what's your emergency? They're back, Sarah whispered. Same spot. Same thing. I dispatched units again. Same result. Nothing there when they arrived. But this time, Martinez mentioned the dead circle had grown larger. Third night, 3:47 a.m. Fourth night, 3:47 a.m. By the fifth night, I was expecting the call. I'd started researching Sarah Chun during my downtime. Divorced, lived alone, worked as a librarian. No history of mental illness, no drug arrests, no domestic disputes. Model citizen. But the calls kept coming. Every night at exactly 3:47 a.m. And every night, the officers found nothing except that growing circle of dead grass. On the 7th night, I made a decision that probably cost me my job. Mrs. Chun, this is going to sound unprofessional, but I believe you. Can you describe exactly what you're seeing? Her relief was palpable. It's tall, maybe 8 feet, wearing something dark, but its face. It's like looking at a photograph negative. All the colors are wrong. How long does it stay? Until sunrise. Exactly until sunrise. Then it just fades. I started staying late after my shifts, researching. The address had no history of unusual calls. The previous owner had lived there for 30 years without incident. But I found something interesting in the city records. In 1987, a man named David Kress had been found dead in that backyard. Apparent suicide. He'd hanged himself from the oak tree. The case was closed quickly, but there were notes about the family claiming it wasn't suicide. They said David had been acting strange for weeks, claiming someone was watching him. I called Sarah Chun during the day. She agreed to meet me at a coffee shop. She looked exactly like she sounded, tired, scared, but determined to be believed. I showed her what I'd found about David Kress. That's impossible, she said. I researched the house before I bought it. There was no mention of any death. But I'd gone deeper than a standard property search. David Kress had been erased from the official records, but newspaper archives don't lie. Mrs. Chun, I think you need to leave that house. She shook her head. I can't. I put everything into this place. And besides, what if it follows me? That night, I did something I'd never done before. I drove to Maple Street and parked across from Sarah's house. At 3:47 a.m., I called her cell phone. It's here, she whispered. I looked at the backyard. Empty. Just an oak tree and a large circle of dead grass. Mrs. Chun, I'm looking at your yard right now. There's nothing there. You can't see it? No. Then maybe it's not really there. Maybe I'm losing my mind. But I was looking at that dead circle, and I could swear it was growing as I watched. I stayed until sunrise. At exactly 6:03 a.m., Sarah called back. It's gone, she said. But the circle is bigger. I measured it the next day. 12 feet in diameter. Perfectly round. The grass wasn't just dead, it was gone, leaving only bare earth. That night, I brought a camera. At 3:47 a.m., I started recording the backyard. Through the viewfinder, I saw nothing. But when I played back the footage later, there was a tall shadow by the tree. Indistinct, but definitely there. I showed the footage to Sarah. She started crying. You believe me now? I believe something is happening. But I don't think it's trying to hurt you. Then what does it want? I've been thinking about that. David Kress had hanged himself from that tree. But what if he hadn't been alone? What if something had been watching him too, driving him to desperation? I think it's stuck, I said. Trapped somehow. And it's trying to communicate. Sarah looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. What do you want me to do? Have a conversation with it? Maybe. That night, I convinced Sarah to go outside. Not close to the tree, just on her back porch. At 3:47 a.m., she stepped out and spoke to the empty yard. What do you want? The response came through my radio. A voice, crackling with static, help me. Sarah couldn't hear it. Only I could, through the dispatch equipment. Help you how, she asked. Find me, the voice said through my radio. Find what's left. I spent the next day researching David Kress's death more thoroughly. The police report mentioned his body was found, but there were inconsistencies. The coroner's report was sealed. The investigating officer had retired immediately after the case. I tracked down the officer, Frank Morrison, now 78 and living in a nursing home. When I mentioned David Kress, his face went white. That case should have stayed closed, he said. What really happened? Frank looked around the nursing home common room, making sure no one was listening. We never found all of him, he whispered. Parts were missing, buried somewhere in that yard, but the family wanted it quiet, so we ruled it suicide and moved on. What parts? His hands. Someone had cut off his hands. That night, I brought a metal detector to Sarah's house. The dead circle was now 15 feet across. At 3:47 a.m., the detector started beeping frantically near the oak tree. Dig, the voice said through my radio. Sarah couldn't hear it, but she saw my expression. What is it? We need to dig. We found them 3 feet down. 2 human hands, still wearing a wedding ring. The bones were clean, white, arranged carefully in a small wooden box. The moment we lifted the box from the ground, the radio went silent. The dead circle began to shrink. And Sarah Chun never received another call at 3:47 a.m. But I still think about that voice, asking for help. How many other dispatchers have heard voices through their radios? How many dismissed them as interference? I don't work nights anymore. But sometimes, when I'm alone in the dispatch center, I hear whispers in the static. Voices asking for help, begging to be found. I've started keeping a list. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share for more stories.